Welcome to Julie Mango TV. I'm Robin Bourne, and today I'm chatting with Ellen Evans, the award-winning director behind the short film Motherland. Motherland traces the experiences of two young men forcibly returned to Jamaica after a lifetime in Britain, alongside the story of a Windrush-generation man denied re-entry into the UK. Thank you so much for joining me, Ellen.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
So we can jump straight into it. Motherland was part of a larger project distributed theatrically in the UK called The Uncertain Kingdom. How did you become a part of this anthology project?
So The Uncertain Kingdom was a collection of 20 short films about the UK. It started just after Brexit, and as a result, I think it was called The Uncertain Kingdom, and they were commissioning films from directors about this theme of uncertainty. So it was an open call. I decided to pitch a film about detention and deportation originally, because in my early 20s, I worked as an immigration caseworker. So I used to work for a Labour MP in the UK, and I would make representations for and support people in their cases against the Home Office. So the issue of detention and deportation has been something I've been aware of for a really long time, and it's something that I feel very passionate about. So originally the film was going to be set in the UK, and it was going to be about a family who were living in uncertainty, because that's what it's like, when you are waiting for a decision to be made on your case. You've got, it's really impossible for people to plan for the future. And these cases can go on for years, and in the meantime, they can't work. Often they're hauled in and out of immigration detention. So that was the original idea for the film. But it was through my research that I actually came across an organization in Jamaica called NODM, which is the National Organization for Deported Migrants. And when I started talking to the organization, I realized that actually I could situate the film further down its own timeline. So instead of looking at somebody that was awaiting a decision as to whether they're going to be deported or not, to actually go to Jamaica and talk to young men who had already been deported. So that was how the film started. So the film explores two different subjects. It explores the Windrush scandal, which was a 2018 political scandal. And then it also explores another subject, which is the deportation of young men with criminal convictions. So the Windrush scandal happened a few years ago, and it was basically revealed that many people of Caribbean heritage who had come to the UK as British subjects were being wrongfully, and by that I mean illegally, deported or detained or threatened with deportation due to mistakes on the part of the Home Office. So Ken, for example, who's in the film, is a victim of this. He came to the UK when he was 9. He moved over with his family. He was educated here. He started working here. He worked as a teacher. And he went back to Jamaica for the first time as an adult. He went back to go to a funeral. And, he spent a couple of weeks in the country. And then when he tried to come back to the UK, one of the border agents confiscated his passport. And they said, this isn't a British passport. You're not British. You can't come back to Britain. The reason they did it is because Ken was using his British subject passport. It was something that Jamaicans were given back in the day. It was a black passport. It was a British passport, but the border force official didn't recognise it. And so they confiscated it. And as a result, Ken was stranded in Jamaica for over 20 years. He, he had a home in London he couldn't return to because he didn't have the documentation and nobody would believe him. His passport was the evidence, and they confiscated that. So he had to build a new life for himself in Jamaica, like start from scratch, in a country which he barely remembered. He felt British by this point. So that's just one story amongst many that were part of this. We call it the Windrush scandal now, but it was basically just case upon case of somebody being wrongfully deported or detained, or in Ken's case, refused entry back to the UK. And there are hundreds of these cases. There were people who had been living in Britain 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and then were suddenly being issued letters by the Home Office telling them to go home. So yeah, it was a betrayal of a generation. Now the film also explores something which is a bit more complex, and that is the deportation of young men with criminal convictions. So these are young men who are not technically British citizens. They're not living here illegally. They have leave to remain, but they're not technically, born as British citizens. So in this case, it's young men who have, I'm saying men because it is overwhelmingly men, but occasionally it's women as well, who, have come from Jamaica to the UK, or from, many other places, but my film explores this phenomenon in Jamaica. So you come to the UK as a child, and then you live here on a series of visas. So yes, technically, according to your paperwork, you're not a British citizen, but you probably feel yourself very much to be British if you have gone to school here and your friends are here and your family's here, etc. And it's a new practice. We didn't used to do it. But basically, if you have a prison sentence of over 12 months, you're liable to be deported. Now, the way it's supposed to work, in line with the Human Rights Act, is that your case is supposed to be reviewed, and you're supposed to be assessed as to whether you have significant ties to the UK. So they say, if you have significant ties, we're not going to deport you to somewhere you don't know. But the truth is, they regularly deport people who have no, deeming them to have no ties to the UK, despite the fact they have kids here, etc., and deport them back to a place that they haven't known since they were a child. Sometimes people are being deported back to a place they haven't lived in since they were 2 years old, and saying that they can, that's their home, and that they should return there and build a new life for themselves there is despicable, I think. And I think actually shows the same kind of thinking, which resulted in the Windrush scandal. It's a kind of institutional racism, and I think it's deeply, deeply wrong. So that was kind of why I made the film, to kind of show those stories in parallel and to show the similarities between them.
It's almost like, okay, yeah, we brought you here and we let you in, but our first chance to not let you back in, we're taking it. It's kind of what it almost feels like, because although yes, we do see a handful of examples, as you said, it happens all the time. When it happens like that, it's a pattern. You have to, you can't ignore the fact that this is a system. So
Yeah,
as you were talking, I just thought of that. It's really like they're like, oh yeah, we're done with you now. You can go. It's very disheartening to think about and very disheartening to watch. So I will say for our viewers, it is going to be something heavy to watch, but it's definitely needed. Thank you, Ellen, for offering that insight on your work. And thank you for watching Julie Mango TV. Subscribe for more coverage of Caribbean stories told on screen. I'm Robin Bourne, and I will see you next time.